helicopter, and it's getting greater and greater all the time, and this is going to be a tremendous help to Damon Hill when it comes to refueling time, because he will have a cushion that will help him. And you can see in the background that Johnny Herbert is starting to close up. He's lapping faster than Coulthard ahead of him. So there's Ferrari second, Benetton third, Williams of Coulthard on the left side of your picture is fourth, and just coming into your picture now is Johnny Herbert, who is lapping faster than everybody in front of him. There are soon going to be 4 cars nose to tail fighting for second place, and behind them is Mika Häkkinen in 6th position, and he too is lapping faster than everybody except Alesi and Hill. It's getting really exciting.
Now, let's take a look at this start again, looking from overhead. Gerhard Berger in 4th place. It's a lot of wheel spin in that Ferrari. Loses traction, and Alesi is rocketing by. Coming right up there, past Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard. A lock of brakes from Michael Schumacher there. Coulthard back in 4th place. And then Aligier, I think a Brundle right up behind the McLaren of Häkkinen too. But great credit to this man, John Alesi. He's done the job of a racing driver off the line. And timing those revs just right to get the most traction really is very difficult indeed. That Ferrari engine, that V12 engine, revs to 17,000 revs, and it's so easy, like Berger did, to get too much wheel spin, and tyre smoke might look spectacular, but it doesn't get you off the line quickly.
That was a rocket start by Alesi, and it inhibited Michael Schumacher, of course. It's very difficult to get past. Alesi's car is probably faster than the Benetton down the straights. The Benetton may be a bit quick around the corners in the hands of Michael Schumacher, but he can't get close enough to challenge Jean Alesi, and Damon Hill is now 6.2 seconds ahead of the battle for third position. Race order, in fact, on lap 6, which is 1/10 distance, Damon Hill leads by 6.2 seconds. Alesi is second. Schumacher, that we are riding with, looking at the Ferrari in front as he gets closer on braking, is third. Coulthard is fourth. Right behind him, Johnny Herbert is fifth. Häkkinen is getting closer to Herbert in 6th position. 7th is Barrichello. 8th is Berger in the second Ferrari. Well down for him. Martin Brundle in that repaired Ligier is 9th, ahead of Mark Blundell. So both the McLarens in the top 10. Parnish is 11th. Frentzen is in 12th position, and we're on lap 6 out of 60.
Now, one thing we should just watch for, I think it's an unlikely possibility, but nevertheless it may occur, and that's that Alesi may have made that good a start that he might have actually jumped the start. Now, we have a very sensitive electronic jump start mechanism now in Formula 1, and it takes them a few laps to go through it and double check and treble check the data to make sure that any infringement has indeed occurred. And normally it's round about lap 7, lap 8, in a lap or two's time, when if anybody has made a jump start, we shall see it come up on our screen, and if that indeed is the case, they'll need to come in for what sort of time penalty. And now we're on board with Coulthard now, and of course Coulthard is right behind Michael Schumacher, and this is as frustrating for Coulthard as Schumacher, because Alesi is holding the whole queue up. That's the point at which they may be able to get by. Coming there into the section where you actually need a long straight followed by a slow corner, and now they're coming into the left-hander at Club. That was coming into Stowe before. See how Schumacher uses all the curbs on the inside? That's quite normal. Most of the drivers will try to use whatever curbing they can, providing it doesn't upset the car. Now, watch Schumacher on the right-hand side. They're coming into the Abbey. It's a left, or right on the entry, left through there, then right on the exit. Holding on the power, coming up towards, this is the bridge corner, this is 5th gear, virtually flat out, 150 miles an hour, but the braking distance is too short. Down to 2nd gear and down to 70 miles an hour for Priory, and now Brooklands to do much about it. But Schumacher or Coulthard may have half a chance coming around the second of the Luffield right-handers. Now this is leading us on to the start-finish line. Let's just look to see if Schumacher can keep up close, because we do know from the morning warm-up times and from the qualifying that the Ferrari hasn't been that fast in a straight line. And this is Kopp's corner now, 3rd gear right-hander, but Schumacher's still too far away to do anything about it.
Each of these 4 drivers are pushing the man in front, except Alesi, of course. He's a long way behind Damon Hill now, and the predominantly British spectator here is rooting for Damon Hill and is delighted because the gap now is nearly 9 seconds on the 8th lap. Damon Hill is consistently pulling away, and the British enthusiasts will be praying for reliability from the Williams. You heard it, Damon Hill earlier in the programme, I'm sure, saying that they'd had 1 or 2 reliability problems, predominantly with the hydraulic pump, on which they've been working very hard, and they think and hope they've overcome that problem. And look, a completely clear track all the way back from Abbey to Club, and that's a long way between Hill, Lacey, Schumacher right behind him, Coulthard is right behind, and in 5th position it's still Johnny Herbert ahead of Häkkinen. But as I said earlier on, if any of those men just put a wheel wrong, it's going to create an opportunity for the man behind him to nip past. And if Schumacher can get past Jean Alesi, I think he might try, well, he obviously tried to close the gap between himself and Damon Hill. He might well succeed, depending on his fuel load and depending on when they're coming in for tyres. Now you see the gap as through the heat haze, they swim towards us. Alesi 2nd, Schumacher 3rd, Coulthard 4th, Johnny Herbert 5th, Häkkinen is 6th, right behind him is Barrichello 7th, Berger is 8th, here's Martin Brundle, who is in 9th position in the Ligier, in 10th position in the 2nd McLaren, there is Mark Blundell, 11th is Olivier Parnis, that is him in the Ligier Mugen, and there is race leader Damon Hill round Stowe. He's the full length of the Hangar Straight now in front of the battling Alesi. Once again, Michael Schumacher pulls to the right and has a look. Now, he may just be doing this every lap to try to make Alesi think he's going to go and try and dive through on the inside, only to close up on the outside. Feasible or not?
Well, it's possible, but I really don't think he's close enough, and I think Alesi knows he's not close enough for that to have a viable chance. And these two drivers are both extremely experienced. Had Alesi been a newcomer, he would have been easier to rattle, and Schumacher will know that he can pressurise all he likes, but he will indeed do that because he's a professional, and that's the professional thing to do. We're looking with David Coulthard now behind Michael Schumacher, but I'm sure that Schumacher also knows that Alesi is unlikely to kind of succumb to that sort of pressure. But this is playing into the hands wonderfully for Damon Hill. He's able to pull out over 1 second, 1.3 seconds per lap. We're now on lap 8. And there we are, jump start Barrichello, Rubens Barrichello. He was in 7th position. He's going to lose 30 seconds from this jump start penalty. And Olivier Panis as well, that's the second one. So 2 of them now.
Yeah, the amazing thing is that both Barrichello and Parnis had jump start penalties in the last event, the French Grand Prix, and both of them were absolutely vehement in their insistence that they'd not had a jump start. Let me tell you how they work it out. The car has a sensor, a transponder underneath the driver, and there is a sensor in the track. And the sensor measures the distance between itself and the transponder, and if that distance decreases before the green light comes on, they are adjudged to have had a jump start. So a jump start might literally be just putting the car in gear. It's down to the stewards to decide whether they thought the driver had done it deliberately or not. I would be very surprised. Now we're with Barrichello. This is a wonderful shot from the roll bar of Rubens Barrichello's Jordan Peugeot. He's in 7th place. Now, the Brazilian has had a very rough season, one way and another, psychologically, after the tragic death of his mentor, Ayrton Senna, last year. And then the fact that Eddie Irvine joined the Jordan team and proceeded to put Barrichello away in terms of speed, both in qualifying and in the race. And having a jump start penalty 2 races in succession is not going to do anything for his well-being at all. So he's got 3 laps now. They've got to bring him in, the team, they've got to bring him in within 3 laps of the penalty notification having been given. He may be coming in this lap, or it may be the next one, or the one after. If he stays out, as Schumacher stayed out last year, he would get the same treatment that Schumacher got last year, black flag and exclusion.
Now, the notification of those time penalties for the jump start would be coming up on the team manager's screens as well. And I'm sure that the Benetton team have been speaking to Michael Schumacher. Schumacher would have wondered, has Jean Alesi made a jump start? And in the last lap, they would be telling Michael Schumacher on his radio, sorry, Michael, there is no evidence of it. It looks like he hasn't. Therefore, I'm afraid that you are resigned to having to follow Jean Alesi unless you can find a way by, unless he makes a mistake, until the first round of pit stops come. And Schumacher and the Williams team, there is no way that they would have anticipated this kind of meteoric start from Alesi. To come up from 6th to 2nd is, I think, virtually unprecedented. It's quite extraordinary. Now, the first round of pit stops is likely to take place, I think, in about another 5 laps. But if they're going to make 2 stops, we shall see the cars come in somewhere between lap 15 and lap 20. And we're now with David Coulthard following Michael Schumacher. This is this train of cars between lap 15 and lap 20 for that first stop, lap 35 to lap 40 for the second. But we still don't know whether or not Jean Alesi, he might be staying out until lap 26, lap 27. Like I have a suspicion Michael Schumacher might be for one solitary stop. And if he does do that, that's going to be bad news for all of those cars following him.
Damon Hill is now leading the British Grand Prix on lap 12 out of 61 by a massive 11 seconds. A massive 11 seconds. There's one of the 40 cars in the pit lane there as the battle for 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th goes past and into Cops Corner. And what a fascinating season this is turning out to be. Because when it started, the Williams car was the best. It was better than the Benetton, better than the Ferrari, much better than the McLaren, better than the Jordan. Damon Hill might have won in Brazil had his suspension not collapsed, but he did win very convincingly in Argentina and San Marino. Then, when things were looking bad for Benetton, they suddenly got on top of their problems in Spain, and Schumacher won a commanding victory, followed by another in Monaco. Then Alesi won in the Ferrari. Schumacher was back on top in France, and people were beginning to say Williams are in trouble. But just as somebody once said to me, never underestimate McLaren, I would say to everybody else, never underestimate Williams. Because under Patrick Head and Adrian Newey, everybody at Williams has got together and patiently and diligently worked on and developed the car and got it better and better. And here is the proof of the pudding. Damon Hill on lap 12 is still extending his lead by a second a lap. He's now 12 seconds ahead with 50 laps to go.
Yes, and that's all time in the bank for Damon Hill. It's of no advantage in any other way for Michael Schumacher or David Coulthard behind that. They won't really be any easier on their tyres. You can see that from the odd puff of smoke that we see from Michael Schumacher. In his desperation to try and find a way by, he's going to be working that car as hard as if he was actually ahead of Alesi. But further behind that, we've got this train of 3 cars there. We've got Schumacher and Coulthard. Johnny Herbert just fading away a little bit. He's now to 2 seconds behind. You can see it just there. The Benetton at the back of the picture. And then we've got Mika Häkkinen. We just saw him. He's dropping back surprisingly fast, bearing in mind his morning warm-up time. I might have expected more of that. I'm pretty sure that they're only going to stop twice. But Häkkinen's actually holding up Barrichello, who are expecting to come in for his, that's Olivier Panis coming into the pits for his time penalty. Surprising not to see Barrichello, because he would have been informed of that as we ride with Michael Schumacher there. And there is Panis having his jump start penalty.
And he sees a digital board on the right. That's what he's looking at. The seconds tick away, but it's much worse from his point of view than a 10-second penalty, because there is a very long entry to the pit lane in Silverstone, and there's an almost equally long exit. So he will, in effect, have lost more like 30 seconds than 10 seconds by the time he slowed down to come in and speeded up to get out, and that will have cost him at least 4 places. And with Hill now having made the fastest lap of the race, further to extend his lead, now nearly 14 seconds on lap 13, he's pulling away faster, more than a second a lap now. Alesi, Schumacher, Coulthard, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. Johnny Herbert is still 5th, but now 2 seconds behind. Häkkinen is still 6th, and I suspect, and I could well be wrong, that if he is slowing, it may be because that new engine goes very quick, but it may not be altogether a reliable one.
Well, I'm rather surprised to see Rubens Barrichello come past the start twice now. Panis came in for his stop, as we saw, but Barrichello was also having a jump start penalty, and he's not come in, and he needs to come in certainly within the next 4 laps, or he will be penalised, just like Michael Schumacher, and he could get the black flag. One assumes that the Jordan team are in communication with the Jordan of Barrichello, and we just were with Barrichello then to inform him of that, and let's just hope that he does come in at the end of this lap.
We will know the answer.